Good afternoon, and welcome to our third annual Excellence in the Liberal Arts Awards. My name is Dr. Patty Montgomery, and I am the Assistant Dean of Liberal Arts, and I will be serving as your MC for our celebration. Yes! Now, we have a history of being the loudest awards program at the college, and I hope that continues this year very much. Okay, this afternoon, we are honoring academic excellence in all the many areas of the liberal arts. One of those areas is our honors program. When our first speaker came to me and to inquire about doing her honors capstone project in fashion design, well, naturally, I am a Project Runway superfan, so of course I was like, okay, so you're gonna build a dress out of like tinfoil, old shoelaces, and bubble gum, right? Is that what you're gonna do? And she just looked at me and said, no. So heartbroken as I was, it's actually a really good thing because what she is gonna present for us now is far more interesting than that. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Franceli May Argules. Please come to the podium, right over here on our steps.
Thank you, Dr. McHenry. Hello, everyone. My name is Franceli May Argules. I am a liberal arts associate student. I am also the president and founder of the fashion club here at Montco that started this semester. Thank you. I am planning on studying fashion design right after Montco, and today I'll be presenting my honors capstone project in how culture and individualism is expressed through fashion. So for me, fashion is a way to express ourselves. It's a type of art. Clothes to me are an artistic medium. Our sense of style is how we showcase who we are to the world. It's how we showcase our individuality. For example, when you see a bold person, they're probably going to be wearing like bold prints, bold patterns, and when the viewer sees that person, they think, oh, that person's really confident. Even something small like a color choice, for example, choosing dark denim over light denim, can show how we express ourselves. Culture also affects what we wear. Traditional clothing or national dress is a remembrance of who we are and what has shaped our nation's identity. Webster's dictionary actually defines tradition as an inherited, established, or customary pattern or thought, action, or behavior, such as a religious practice or social custom. Therefore, we can interpret traditional wear as clothing worn because of a culture's tradition. Cultural clothing is proof that individuals share a society, and clothes are a way that humans show solidarity and show differences. To explore this argument further, I will be studying a case study of the Filipino terno. I will be going into its history and background and why it's considered the most iconic Filipino dress. I will also then analyze two different designers' iterations of a Filipino dress and present my own original terno iteration design. So the Philippines is a country of over 7,000 islands in Southeast Asia. It's very tropical with lots of beaches, and I will be focusing mostly on women's wear since the terno is traditionally a wealthy women's wear. So before Spain colonized the Philippines, we were all a bunch of different clans and tribes that were in contact with China, Japan, India, and Arabia, and you can see some influences. For example, some of these clothes kind of look like a traditional Indian sari. A lot of the styles here are very different, but you can see a lot of loose, wrapped clothing. Women specifically had a top and a skirt. They might have had a sash around the skirt or the shoulders, and they loved gold and accessories. Spain colonized the Philippines in the mid-1500s, and here is the barot saya, or the traz de mestiza. Baro means top and saya means skirt. There is also the pañuelo, which is a piece of clothing wrapped around the shoulders, kind of similar to some pre-colonial wear. Also, the tapis is something that was wrapped around the top of the skirt. This was done for modesty since the Spanish emphasized that in their Catholic culture. veils and other pieces with embroidery was also learned from Spanish nuns. This is the Maria Clara dress, also during colonial Philippines. It's named after the heroine in Jose Rizal's book Noli Me Tangere. She was the Filipino woman. She was of Spanish blood and Filipino blood. She was pure-hearted and Catholic. The sleeves here are actually very similar to some Spanish Mary figures or statues. And here is the Serpentina style dress. It's called the Serpentina dress because of the way that the bottom of the skirt is cut. It is cut in a zigzag pattern to achieve those ruffles. And as you can see here, the sleeves are bigger, they're shorter, and they're starched to be that kind of like stiff balloon shape. This dress is a lot more opulent, and as you can see here, it's worn mostly by wealthy women. Here are some images of Filipino dresses from the 20s to 50s. The US colonized the Philippines in the late 19th century. You can see their influences in style, specifically in the bottom middle Art Deco pattern on the woman's dress. The turno style starts to form here since it literally just means matching top and bottom. So you can see how the embroidery continues from the top to the bottom, and you can see how the colors match in the top and the skirt. The panuelo gets smaller and it becomes more for decor than for modesty, and so does the tapis, or it's omitted. A lot of these clothes are from social clubs. They're mostly worn, again, by wealthy women in order to showcase their wealth and opulence. And in the 50s, we begin to see detachable sleeves. So the sleeves towards the right side of the screen can be taken off in order to have a more Western style dress. And as you look from left to right, you can also see that there used to be a train at the bottom of the turno as well. So here are some dresses from the 60s to 70s. The Philippines gained independence in 1946, but there was still a lot of Western influence. The turno becomes one dress thanks to Ramon Valera, who we'll talk about later. And the 60s silhouette is very similar to the US's 60s silhouette, which is like a kind of boxy, rectangular style. Paul Pure, who influenced a lot of American fashion in the 60s, also influenced a lot of Filipino fashion, as you can see in these Oriental designs. So when I think of iconic Filipino who has worn the turno, I think of Imelda Marcos. So a Filipino beauty contestant was actually asked who made the turno, and she incorrectly stated Imelda Marcos. She's actually a former First Lady, and she solidified this as our national dress with the sleeve silhouette as a marker of a Filipino by wearing it to political and public events. As you see in the quote here, from the way it makes you sit upright, the way that it commands attention when you enter a room, to the way that the sleeves frame your face, it's difficult to explain in words, but you know it when you see a Filipina in a turno. It's a Spanish word for poder or power. This is a quote from Gino Gonzalez, the creative director of TurnoCon. And TurnoCon is basically a convention where Filipino designers come together to create iterations of the turno to celebrate the national dress. So next I will be analyzing two designers' work. The first designer is Ramon Valera, who is nicknamed the father of Filipino fashion. He revolutionized the turno in the mid-20th century, and he created the turno dress. So instead of it being two separate parts that matched each other, it was just one piece. He created the stiff butterfly sleeve silhouette here, so it's like short, right above the armpit, and high, almost like touching the face almost. This is the turno silhouette that we think of when we think of a modern turno. And the Philippine National Commission for Culture and the Arts states on their site that he gave the country its visual icon to the world via the turno. This is work from Glyn Ali Matingbay. She is a Filipino designer who entered in TurnoCon 2023. As you can see, her style is very different from Ramon Valera. So as Ramon Valera's style is more opulent, he designed for a lot of royalty, very wealthy, powerful women. Because you can see in the colors here, the colors remind me of gemstones, they remind me of flowers. The embroidery here is very like princess-like to me. Glyn Ali Matingbay's colors are very bright, they're very in your face. Her style is more like shocking to the viewer, I believe. She likes to juxtapose colors together. Her embroidery here is of Filipino women or skulls. She even adds x-rays to the Filipino terno on the sides here. It's a very different style than Valera's. As you can see here, these are two terno dresses made by Valera and Mating Bay. And while you can tell that they're both Filipino ternos because of the silhouette and because of the butterfly sleeves, these are not ternos that you would see in the same closet. Here's my terno design. I also really like color juxtaposition. I also like tight and loose juxtaposition. So as you can see, the sleeves and the pants are very loose compared to the waist where it's pulled inwards. I liked romantic aesthetics, so I have corset and lace here as well. And growing up, I saw how religion can be used for control, so the crosses and chains around my piece are symbolism of that. The three cross trains in the back actually are a nod to the train that turners used to have and how feeling helpless and out of control can weigh you down. As you can see from how different all of these terno designs are, you can both showcase culture and individualism in fashion. Fashion can be a way to showcase your personality and who you are, and cultural clothes is an acknowledgement of, while we are all different, beautiful people, we share a society, we share stories, we share thoughts, ideas, and feelings with one another, and wearing cultural clothes is a way to show love and appreciation of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is Professor Lisa McPherson here? Lisa has been Francelli's mentor in the fashion design program, and she has a special something for you that she's like, could I give it? I promise I won't say anything. And I was like, it's okay, of course.
Thank you very much. You're a pleasure to work with, and the work was fabulous.
Yes. I still want you to make that tinfoil dress, though. I'm just. Thank you. Okay. Now I would like to invite Dr. Timothy J. Brown, our Dean of Liberal Arts, to please come to the stage to give our Dean's address.
Thank you, and welcome to our event today. I know there's a lot of things that you could be doing on a Friday, so I appreciate you coming out and supporting our award winners and being part of our ceremony. So we're going to award our Excellence in Liberal Arts, and so why don't we momentarily give those students a round of applause, right, that we're going to do. I always enjoy this event because it allows me to give a couple comments to try to motivate and inspire, right, our students, because we know that today is a great day for them, but we know it will be first of many in their lifetime. And so when I started thinking about today, I thought about my own upbringing. And one of the things that I enjoyed when I was a little kid in elementary school, remember you had library day? And you'd come home with your books. And see, that was something special for me because it was my time to be with my mother. Right, because I was a third out of four, and so when you have four kids around, and everyone wanted to have their time with mom. And so for me, it was great because I would bring those books home, and I would be able to just sit with my mother on her lap, and she would read those stories to me, and I would always kind of have like the Curious George books, right? Those are always fun that you have. I remember Where the Wild Things Are, right? You're looking at all the pictures and the things that you have. And, Harry the Dirty Dog was also another one of my go-tos I had. But the one that I liked the most was a story, you may have heard it, you may not. It was called Go Dog Go, right? Dr. Seuss. And I liked that because, it was like you're always kind of seeing where these dogs, and they're having fun, they're trying to get to some place. And then you remember they had the part with the two dogs, they would always kind of come in at a certain time, like, do you like my hat? And the other one was like, I do not like your hat, right? And it would always kind of crack me up. And the thing that I appreciate about my mother was that even though I would bring this book home several times during the year, she would always read it as if it was the first time that I was experiencing it. And see, Later on, when I became a communications scholar, I learned that there's a person called Walter Fisher, and he talked about how stories or narratives are one of the most effective ways that we communicate in our society. So think about it. Because with stories, we learn right from wrong. We learn about values and beliefs. They inspire us, they motivate us, and they guide us. And so today I want to kind of start by saying, what is your story? And how does it provide direction and values and meaning for yourself? And so we have a lot to learn from stories as we want to be those leaders and engaged citizens in our communities that we will serve. And so today, I'm going to use as a framework a story that you probably heard of, The Little Engine That Could, right? And I think it's great to use it as a framework because it teaches us a lot about how to build effective communities, work environments, and also how we can relate to one another. And I think an underlying theme that we have is teaching us how to stay the course. Okay? And what I mean by that is that think about those attributes that you guys have as students and as people, as adults, right? Your empathy, your compassion, your collaborative skills, your caring nature. See, those are important attributes that we need now more than ever. And I think it's a great story because it talks about the importance of those and how you can bring about change and how to believe in yourself and your abilities. And so when we stay the course, there's 3 ideas I'm going to talk about here today. It says, when we stay the course, we demonstrate true inclusion, we unlock others' potential, and we bring change. And so before we kind of go on this journey, I want you to kind of, if you look to the person next to you, look to them real quick, and I want you to say to them, this message, go ahead, this message is for you. And then turn to the person on the other side and say, pay attention. There we go. So let's look at the first point. When we stay the course, we demonstrate true inclusion. And see, that's very true when we see in the story. If we pick up the story, right, where the train had the toys or the passengers and the goods, and it breaks down, and they're stranded there, and they need help to get to the other side of the mountain. And what happens is we learn there's several other engines that come by, but they all kind of blow them off, right? Basically say they're too important to the load that they are there. As a matter of fact, the passenger engine, he says, pull the likes of you, indeed not, right? And see, in life, it's interesting because, when you're in leadership positions or you're working with people, we always say lead people and manage things, right? But oftentimes in action, it's the other way around, right? And we understand that and experience that when people treat us as things as opposed to people. And we see that in this beginning part of the story. See, but true inclusion is really loving people where they are and supporting them in their journey. See, true inclusion is work. See, when you're dealing with people, it doesn't always just go in a straight line, right? That working with people, sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's inconvenient, sometimes you have to sacrifice. But if we want people to get to where they need to be, these are the things that we have to do in society. And see, things that I've learned is that, it's an old saying, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. I think that's true. And we think about our groups and our work groups, there's always a time that someone needs to be encouraged. Someone needs to be supported. Someone needs to be inspired. Someone needs to be believed in. And see, I'm reading right now, it's a very interesting book. You might have heard it by Jerry Muller. It's called The Tyranny of Metrics. And what he's basically talking about in his book is that, we're in a time that we are so fixated on metrics that we use that over our judgment and experience, right? As if you just have some numbers and they're going to tell you what you need to do. And there's a passage here that's really interesting. He says, there are things that can be measured. There are things that are worth measuring. But what can be measured is not always what is worth measuring. What gets measured may have no relationship to what we really want to know. And the cost of measuring may be greater than the benefits. The things that get measured may draw effort away from the things we really care about. And measurement may provide us with a distorted knowledge that seems solid but is actually deceptive. And I thought about that. I was like, there's a lot of truth in that, right? When we think about it, when we're leading with people and being engaged with people. And I think one of the best examples, think about what's going on right now, the NFL draft, right? It's a great example. Think about all the metrics, the millions and millions of dollars that they spend in combines and draft grades and all these scouting and all these people with years of experience. And you realize that people to get picked, that the success rate is less than 50%. So I always kind of take heart at that to think about it. So in life, if you don't get the position or you don't get the promotion, it's not like that you have a deficit. It just means that people don't know your value. And I think the great example is that Tom Brady. You want to go on his story, but think about it. He was an afterthought, a 6th-round draft pick, and he didn't even start on his team. Think about it. He only got his break because the starting quarterback got hurt. So I always think in my mind, think about what would have happened if that other quarterback never would have got hurt. He would have never became the GOAT. So you always have to kind of think about that. And see, I learned that when I grew up in Coastal PA, it was kind of like the Sandlot, if you remember those old movies. It was an open field we had on our street, and that's where all the kids would come and play. And see, since I was one of the folks who did pretty well in sports, I was always a captain. And I learned how to organize, right, the kids as we were making our game, whether it's football or basketball, whatever that we were doing. And I learned, that was my first really leadership lesson of how to deal with people. I tell people all the time, the skills I use as a leader really go back to that time when we were just neighborhood kids, right? No one gave me a title, but it was something that we did. And see, I've learned over time is wherever you're at, if you're in a place where you're not appreciated or valued for your skills and abilities, then you're on the wrong train. Hey, that's a good place to applaud. You can applaud that. That was a good applause line, right? If you are not appreciated or valued for your skills and abilities, you're on the wrong train. But by staying the course like the little engine, you can demonstrate true inclusion. And see, that's one thing I learned, is that true inclusion means that our destinies are bound together, right? I can't be everything I can be until you can be everything you can be. Our institutions can't be everything that they need to be until each individual can be what they can be. And see, the little engine, think about it, when he was, asked by the group, could he take him over the mountain, he didn't come in and try to change, right, the passengers. He didn't try to say, you don't want to go that way, right? He didn't try to convince them of something else. But what he did is he came alongside of them like a servant leader and said, how can I help? He cared. And see, if you want to demonstrate true inclusion, you have to care enough to help others. And so that kind of brings me into my second point. And so when we stay the course, we unlock others' potential. And again, we see this in the story. I love the point. He says, when he's considering helping the group, he says, I'm not very big, said the little blue engine. They use me only for switching trains in the yard. I've never been over the mountain. I mean, there's a lot that we can unpack just in that little statement there. But, I think one of the things that you see he's contemplating is that, when you're kind of overlooked, when you're not seen as someone who is significant, life can beat us down, right? Life is hard. Life will kick you in the teeth every opportunity that it gets. But here's the key thing that the little engine did that was important, and this is a good skill for all of us. The little engine stayed in community with the passengers, right? He didn't go off on himself and have a pity party, right? He didn't kind of wallow on his phone looking at social media, all the stuff that other people are doing, right? He stayed engaged with the passengers and said, well, how can I help? And then the passengers, they encouraged him, like, hey, you can do it, right? And so staying in community is very important. And I think it leads to the point that, are you willing and available? And that's going to be key throughout your life. Are you willing to stretch and grow as a person? Because it will often take you places that you can never dream of. And I think about that in my own life. I mean, there was a time when I was a graduate student. I was a first-generation college student. I got talked into going to graduate school by Denny Klinsing. He was the chair at Westchester University for 26 years in communication studies. And so I didn't even have a computer. And so what happened was, since I was working with a professor, he gave me his key. And so I had access to his office. And faculty members, they're usually not there on Fridays, right? So I had times on Friday and Saturday, I would come in, I would use this computer to work on all my graduate papers through the week. And see, this one Friday, I was sitting there, and see, my desk was kind of next to the corner office in Main Hall. And in those days, communication studies was one side of the hall, and down on the other end was history. And then right by my office was the elevator. So I would hear people come as they would come around, wait for the elevator, and go down. And so one day, there was this person named Irene Shore, Dr. Shore. She was the founder of the Holocaust studies at Westchester University, one of the first ones in the nation, I believe. And she taught for a long time. She taught into her 80s. And so she had a very distinctive walk. And she had like those classic heels, and you'd hear the heels coming down the hallway. Clack, 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 clack. And so the one day I heard them, and then it stopped at my door. And then I looked up, and there it was, Irene Shore. She was a short woman, kind of dark complexion, freckles, dark hair, glasses, and she had a booming voice. And I remember to this day, she's like, "Young man, who are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm Tim Brown." And she's like, "What are your plans?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm trying to pass the class." No, what are your career plans, young man?" And I was like, "Oh, I haven't thought." She said, "You know what? I think that you're doing a great job. I can see you having a career in education. I can see you teaching classes and being a very popular professor, so keep up the good work." And then she left. I don't think I had any other conversation with Irene Shore during my time at Westchester University. But it gave me the glimpse to say, you know what? Okay, I guess I can pursue this graduate thing a little farther. And it did, and it took me places I never dreamed of as that kid, right, growing up in Coatesville, PA. I mean, it took me to Ohio University. That's where I met my wife, where I finished my PhD. It took me to my first job in Buffalo, where I became a father. It took me then back to Westchester University, where Denny Clincy recruited me back. And then I succeeded him as chair, and I was the boss of the faculty that I had as a student. I mean, that was things I could never have seen, right, as a student. And it was the first of many. And it would be the same for you, that you have to be able to put yourself out there and risk in order to be able to achieve the things that you couldn't even dream of. And that brings me to my third point. When we stay the course, we bring change. And so what I like about it is when you get to the point where the little engine is helping the passengers, it's really that they both had a role, right? And that the little engine, he's starting to say, okay, I think I can, right? And that you see the passengers are encouraging him on. But what I like about this too, when you read the story, is they just didn't take off, right? It was slow. It was hard. It was difficult. That's life, right? I mean, Frederick Douglass says it best. He said, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. And see, you can't be dismayed if things are not going as fast as you want them to be. Because sometimes you got to be able to be consistent, to learn those values to keep you going forward. And see, great people in any profession, they say what I say, they know how to grind. Meaning that they have consistency and effort and approach, right? And see, I learned this firsthand from my father. My father was a steel worker. He worked 40 years and then was called Luke & Steel. He also served his country. But he gave me the powerful example of consistency. Day after day, day after day, going into a place that I know that he didn't like, but he didn't complain. He never kind of talked about all the disappointments when he was passed over for promotions and things in his shop. But what he did is, it was a powerful example of that. He had mouths to feed, and so he was committed to doing that. And so he became someone that I could trust. I could set my watch there when he was coming home, when he was leaving. And it was something that, for me, like, wow, that consistency is important, because when you have consistency, it allows everyone else, right, to have that security, because you know what's taking place. And it's a good example because I always like that phrase, some things are taught and others are caught, right? And see, I caught that from my father. A good example is when I was nominated with an award from ECA a few years ago, you have to have different students write for your nomination to talk about why you should be honored, in this case, as a distinguished teacher. And this is what one of my former students wrote. This person now is their successful career in academia. They had spent a few years also as a department chair. But this is what the person wrote. They said, "What I learned the most from Dr. Brown is to be conscious of my communication. His ability to be understanding, kind, and genuine towards students is what Dr. Brown is known for. He always has the time to greet you with a smile and listen to what you have to say regardless of who you are. The way I carry myself as a professor is largely emulated from what I learned from interacting with Dr. Brown." See, those things are caught. So the important lesson you think about is that people are watching you and what you're doing, right? Are you being consistent? Are you fulfilling your role, or are you kind of cutting corners, right, at every opportunity? See, people are going to be watching that, and you want to make sure you're always giving your great effort. And see, when you're engaging in creating culture, that's how you bring about change. And I always said it all the time. Whatever you need, you should demonstrate it, right? You don't have to wait, right? So if you need a friend, you should be a friend to someone else. If you need to be understood, you need to be understanding to someone else. If you need compassion, be compassionate to someone, and so forth, right? When you do those things, you're able to change not only yourself, but you change communities, okay? I love what Barack Obama said. He said, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We're the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek." And so today I kind of talked about the importance of staying the course. And we learned it through 3 examples of when we stay the course, we demonstrate true inclusion, we unlock others' potential, and we bring change. And we did that by highlighting different aspects of the little engine that could. And so, of course, at the end, they reach the top of the mountain, and the passengers get really excited because they can see, right, their destination. And one thing I want you to remind you is that when you are at the top of the mountain, remember you didn't get there by yourself. So even the accomplishment that you have here today, it would not have been possible without your loved ones and friends around you right now. And see, in your life, there will be many mountains, obstacles, and people to work with and to lead. But with each journey, it builds more experience and more knowledge. And you have to remember, data is not a replacement for your judgment or your lived experience. See, we need you to stay the course now more than ever. Think about it. The world needs you. The United States needs you. The East Coast needs you. Pennsylvania needs you. Montgomery County needs you. And see, the importance is not that the little engine helped the passengers get to their destination. The deeper meaning is that it's the importance that he stayed the course and they reached their destination together. Because nothing is more important than accomplishing things inside community. So always remember, as you get your awards here today and accolades that you will get later on, always, and I mean always, stay the course. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brown, for those very inspiring words. Now may I ask Sarah Rudish to please join me on the stage. Sarah is the Senior Director of the Montgomery County Community College Foundation. At this time, we are going to recognize and award our winners for the 2024 Pat Nessler Excellence in Creative Writing Award. Pat Nessler was a member of our English faculty at Monco for 34 years, during which time she established a renowned writers' conference, which drew authors including Kurt Vonnegut, Joyce Carol Oates, and Norman Mailer to our campus. Upon her retirement, Pat and her husband David established the Excellence in Creative Writing Award through the Monco Foundation to encourage and promote creative writing at Monco. Her generous legacy served as the actual inspiration for the creation of the Excellence in the Liberal Arts Awards. Now, the judges' comments for the winning work in the category of short story were as follows. A Fresh Start takes a fresh take on the old legend, attending to the quotient details of vampire life while exploring its cross-cultural intricacies with wit and humor. Inventive, smart, and funny, the story does what all good works of fiction do by offering a glimpse into the life of the other and challenging the reader to respond to differences with empathy. Congratulations to Raina Solomon. If you're here, Raina, could you please come to the stage? Yes! Take the stairs, please. Getting very nervous with this big drop here. Okay. I should let you know the prize for the Pat Nessler Award is $500. So dinner is on Raina. Yes. In the category of poetry, the judges shared the following. The writer deftly adheres to a Vanilla's specific poetic structure. You can tell English faculty are our judges for this structure while evoking emotional intensity without making the poem feel formulaic. The poem juxtaposes images of life and death, but ultimately exudes resilience with the refrain, "Today is the day my new life has begun." Congratulations to Shannon Whitland, recipient for the Pat Nessler Award for her poem, Sanctuary of the Sea. Shannon, could you please come to the stage? You're good. Okay. And now it's time for us to honor our recipients for the 2024 Excellence in the Liberal Arts Awards. I would like to begin by sharing a little bit of background with you on the Excellence in the Liberal Arts Awards, or as I like to call them, the ELAs, because that's a mouthful to say 1,000 times. The ELAs are faculty-nominated and faculty-selected awards that recognizes and honors students in academic excellence in all 5 of our majors in the liberal arts, which includes fine arts, history, music, theater, and liberal studies, our certificate program in public relations, and the 12 academic disciplines of the liberal arts division: anthropology, communication studies, dance, first-year experience, English, English as a second language, philosophy, political science, reading, Spanish, sociology, and world languages. We asked our faculty in each of our disciplines to nominate a student whose work demonstrated the academic excellence we strive for in the liberal arts. Each of our winners tonight will receive a medal, a certificate, and a bracelet made from the honor cords in the colors of the liberal arts. White, which is arts and letters, English, history, literature, and sociology. Brown, which is fine arts and dramatic arts. And pink for music. Just because it looks like Neapolitan ice cream is a bonus, definitely a bonus. So at this time, I would like to welcome Dr. Amanda Gatchett, our coordinator for communication studies, and Professor Meredith Frank to the stage to announce our 2024 ELA winners. Dr. Brown, would you also please come to the stage to present the medals? Recipients, when your name is announced, please come to the stage by the stairs, and you'll receive your medal from Dr. Brown.
For excellence in anthropology, Opal Wims. Dr. Lynn O'Brien, who nominated Opal, said, "Opal is pursuing a career in human sexuality, which involves multicultural communication and respect for other cultures, genders, and sexualities. From anthropology, they have learned how to put this into practice. Their participation in anthropology demonstrates their pursuit of excellence in anthropology and education."
Okay, so I get to give the next award, and it's actually an award that I nominated the person for. So this is Excellence in Communication Studies, and this goes to Adam Jones. And I'm going to just say, because I've been teaching for the past 24 years, and few students have presented a perfect speech, and Adam is one of the students that I had who did present a flawless speech. He took everything that he learned in class and he put it into practice, and he spoke extemporaneously and met all the requirements and then some. He did his speech about ice baths and made his speech engaging and interesting. I truly feel that, Adam, you deserve recognitions for this job. Well done.
For excellence in dance, Abba Munson. Professor Heather Doherty says, Abba is a dual enrollment student who excels as a dancer and is also an extremely creative and thoughtful choreographer. Beyond their technical proficiency and talent as an artist, Abba always shows up and puts in 110%. Consistently on time, consistently ready to learn and share and grow, consistently prepared for class and rehearsal, genuinely receptive, responsive, kind, and generous of spirit toward their peers.
Okay, this next award is for the excellence in English, and this is given by Dr. Tom Powers to Reagan Lysias. And Dr. Powers says, as a student in my English 102 CCF section this spring semester, Reagan has impressively served as a class leader, from vigorously participating in discussions, sharing her strong writing skills with the students, and giving them incisive advice on their essays. Reagan inspires her classmates to both understand and embrace the rough draft revision process. As a result, I am confident that this teacher in training for fine arts and English will be equally very much appreciated by her future students.
For excellence in English as a second language, Denaria Ponce Paoli. Dr. Barb Aris says, she was originally placed into a high-level ESL class, but when she had some trouble, she chose to take some basic and intermediate level classes to be more successful at college. She recognized her own challenges and made the decision to take the time to really work on her language skills. She is currently taking the high-level class in which she struggled and is doing much better.
This next award goes to Excellence in Fine Arts to Noah Park, and this is by Cheryl Galover, Professor Cheryl Galover. Noah is not only focused on developing his natural talents, he is also inquisitive and dedicated to discovering how to best achieve his future goals to study art at a 4-year program. Another reason why Noah deserves this special recognition is his concern for the artistic development of his classmates. Without fail, Noah will offer helpful suggestions and class critiques where feedback is offered. Noah truly understands the stated goals of building up fellow students in a class critique, and his comments are always given in the spirit of encouragement. Noah will frequently share his own struggles with assignments that he has found challenging, and this is quite generous of him. Because his own work always shows evidence of his dedication and application of his talents and in his efforts.
For excellence in first-year experience, CJ Fiore. Professor Jen Mullen says, since I met CJ in the fall of 2022, I have been privileged to witness this student's immense growth. After a somewhat shaky start, CJ continued on the educational path at Monco and ended their 3rd semester in the fall of 2023 with straight A's, including an A in FYE after multiple attempts. CJ is persistence, grit, and self-awareness personified. At this point, the sky's the limit, and I have no doubt that CJ will continue to soar.
This is for the excellence in history and political science, and this was said by Dr. Doug Powell. I had Olivia Campbell in 3 classes over the last 2 years, and she consistently made a valuable contribution to the learning environment that is hard to measure or overstate. She has a passion for the history we covered and an intellectual curiosity that was infectious to her fellow students. Her engagement with the material, both in group discussions and during lecture, served as a model to others and enlivened every class. It was my great pleasure to have Olivia in so many classes, and I hope she gets recognized for the contribution she made to them.
For excellence in liberal studies, Brian Alves. Dr. Kathleen Carsey says, any student in the liberal arts prioritizes critical thinking about which of our values are worthwhile, and most liberal arts practitioners agree that humanism is one of the most important of these values. Humanists affirm our ability and responsibility to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment that aspire to the greater good. I can't think of a better example of a humanist than Brian. Not only did he always focus on the most ethical way to solve a problem, but he also valued his classmates' alternative approaches, even if he didn't consider them his own best options for moral excellence. He truly deserves this award in the liberal arts. Congratulations.
Okay, this next one is the Excellence in Music for Leah Bruno, and this is from Professor Bruce Kaminsky. I would like to nominate my double bass student, Leah Bruno, for the award. Leah works hard. She's in every ensemble imaginable, always has an upbeat, positive attitude, and just got accepted in both the Westchester and Temple music programs. Who could ask for anything more?
I believe she was also at an ensemble right now, so yes. Yep. For excellence in philosophy, Thomas Smith. Dr. Greg Pascarella says, Thomas is a non-traditional student who admitted to a pre-established view of things, yet was open to the discussion and the critique of the various views presented by the course and by his peers. Thomas has a conservative disposition that is willing to engage in open, rational dialogue with opposing views. This is exactly what leads to a great, engaging class in ethics.
Okay, this one is for the excellence in public relations, and this is from Professor Tom Donlin. And this is for Gabriella Walden. As the first intern in the Strategic Communication Office at Montco, Gabriella has set a high standard for all students who will follow in her footsteps. She is one of the hardest working students I have ever worked with. I wish all students had her tenacity and time management skills.
For excellence in reading, Vanessa Carrera. Dr. Kimberly Kieber-Dresner says, I would like to nominate Vanessa Carrera. Vanessa amazed me with the high quality of her work. She is an incredibly bright student who wants to be an education major and was an absolute pleasure to have in class.
The Excellence in Sociology Award goes to Michaela Thompson by Dr. Sophia Damasi. Michaela exemplifies excellence in academic inquiry, the essence of liberal arts. Each week, she demonstrated a keen interest in the subjects we were discussing, asked probing questions, and collaborated with classmates, and the instructor to take the topic in new directions. Michaela's goal is to become a nurse. Her intellectual curiosity and kind-hearted demeanor leave me no doubt that she will demonstrate that same excellence in patient care as she has in my sociology class.
For excellence in Spanish, Lauren Caddick. Professor Luz Gamoff says, Lauren is a fantastic and devoted student. Although she finds the course material challenging, she has put in a lot of effort throughout the semester, not only to get an excellent grade in the class, but more importantly, to learn Spanish. Furthermore, Lauren is known to be a very helpful and considerate classmate to others in the class. It's an absolute pleasure to have Lauren as a student in the class.
Okay, the Excellence in Theater Award is going to Dylan Diorio, and this is from Tim Gallagher and the Theater Arts faculty. In a program filled with so many talented and hardworking students, Dylan Diorio is a true standout. Sure, we could laud him with leading the West End Student Theater, or running reading committee at Pottstown, or designing scenery or props, or creating one of his indelible characters on stage. But what deserves the most attention and what makes Dylan truly stand out is his care and thoughtfulness for a fellow student, or advocate for those who lack the confidence to speak up. He strives for excellence in his art, but effortlessly exudes it in his demeanor towards others. Dylan continues to put the goals and dreams of the theater arts program at Pottstown first, always making space for new students and allowing others to share the spotlight. He is a true mensch.
And for our excellence in world languages, Miguel Gromaldos Garcia. Professor Farida Raji says, when Miguel enters the classroom, he always has a smile on his face and never fails to greet me with an enthusiastic voice saying, Bonjour, madame, comment ça va? It is a real pleasure to have him in the course.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gatchett and Professor Frank. And congratulations to all of our ELA winners. So proud of you all. Before we end our program, I would like to take a moment to recognize and thank my fellow ELA committee members, Dr. Tim Brown, Dr. Amanda Gatchett, Professor Meredith Frank, Mrs. Amanda Powers, and Dr. Kathy Parzinski. I could not be luckier to work with such a wonderful group of colleagues. Thank you. I would also like to say thank you to all of our liberal arts faculty who joined us today. May I ask you to please stand for a round of applause in appreciation for all you do to make liberal arts a vibrant, creative, and fantastic division. I'm a little biased, but we are the best. I'm just saying, hands down. We're going to be wrapping this up. Mrs. Powers is going to take some group photos. We have a lot happening tonight. We have a theater play going on tonight. We have a music concert going on tonight. So she's going to take some quick group photos, And then I invite everyone to please help themselves to some refreshments. I know I'm hungry. This is my dinner time. So we got some sandwiches and cookies. And I want to thank all of you for coming. You have been fabulous, and this is the best way we can end an academic year. Thank you. So can I ask all of our ELA winners to come up to the stage? You don't need to bring your certificates, just your medals, please. All of our recipients tonight.